Jen Psaki is just a terrible liar about Muslims, Christians, traditional families who don't want their kids indoctrinated by school.
Hundreds of parents of different faiths in Maryland recently protested their school district's controversial LGBTQ curriculum. They want their children to be given the right to opt out.
Notice they just want the kids to be able to opt out. They're like, hey, we don't want the state teaching our kids about sex. We have our own religion to teach our morals.
The demonstrators included parents of the Islamic, Christian, Jewish, and Hindu faiths, pretty diverse group.
This is the nightmare of the left, that their progressivism goes against every traditional faith in the world. And now the traditional faiths are just uniting.
And one of the protesters tells Fox News this isn't about politics, but rather the desire for their kids to have a quality education and the freedom of religion.
Here's Jen Psaki.
By pitting one group of Americans against another, the GOP successfully managed to split off Southern whites from the Democratic Party.
Yeah, okay, so now, first of all, she's lying about the past, which is they always do this with the civil rights era. The Klan was always Democratic. The South, the side that was pro-segregation, was always Democratic. It was the Republicans that were against it. So first of all, she's totally wrong on that. I don't need to go into that on this video. They've always run with this lie that somehow the Republicans were trying to get the whites to pull them out of the Democratic Party. It's not true.
Now, decades later, the right wing is reviving that same playbook, this time with Muslim Americans and trans people.
Yeah, this is entirely made up. You know, because the Republicans, what about all of the Canadians that are going against this gender brainwashing? Is that the Republicans up in Canada doing that? You know, all those Republican Canadians?
Hear me out here.
You're psycho.
The GOP is trying to recruit Muslim Americans, a community that makes up less than 2% of the U.S. population, against another tiny marginalized group of Americans, transgender people.
Okay, she's even set up the whole argument as wrong. It's like, oh, the Republicans are going to go after 2% of us that are Muslims. Really, is that a big voter constituency to go after? And it's not the trans people that the left has. It's the entire left. It's 50% of the voters that are pro-trans. See what I mean? Her math doesn't make sense because she's blinded by anti-Christian bigotry. She's a Christophobe.
The Islam and Religious Freedom Action Team says the left wants to scare Muslims into accepting its indoctrination of our children in exchange for a smile and pat on the head. They insult Muslims.
This is the head of an Islam and Muslim Freedom Action Team. They're just defending their position, saying, no, this isn't a Republican thing. This is we have our own tradition.
By portraying us as having no agency or intelligence, but can't imagine that we've weighed the bargain they offer us and rejected it. Then the head of CARE, Edward Ahmed Mitchell, instead of addressing the substance of the concerns these families have raised about what's happening in public schools, the likes of MSNBC paint these parents as dupes being used by the political right directly from Muslim faith leaders.
Now, by the way, this is what the left has always done, okay? And now the Muslims are realizing they're being treated just like blacks were treated, that if you don't behave and you don't carry the line a certain way, they'll call you traitor and sellout. And they're just coming back. The Muslims are coming back and saying, look, if we're tired of the Democrat Party just kind of patting us on the head and saying, oh, bye-bye, you will accept our gender identity. Okay, and the left thinks they got away with it. Culturally, they might have, but Muslims are not giving in on this.
Let's listen to a Montgomery County council member. She apologized for these comments, I want to point out, but we should bring them to you nonetheless.
This issue has unfortunately does put some, not all, of course, but some Muslim families on the same side of an issue as white supremacists.
What a bunch of bull. I can't believe this psycho even said that out loud. That is a totally offensive thing to say.
And outright bigots. And, however.
She's trying to say, look, to the Muslims, like, you don't want to be on their side, the white supremacists, which is an entirely made up group that I've never even met one. I've been on the right my whole life. You'll never even meet one. Completely made up by the Biden administration. I don't know where they're at. I'm sitting here in the South looking for them with my magnifying glass. They didn't show up. This is name calling. What they really mean is you'd hate to be labeled a white supremacist, because we're about to label the Muslims that, just like they labeled the Asians, just like they labeled women who vote Republican, that you're anti-woman. This is what they do.
The folks who I've talked here today, I would not put in the same category as those folks, although, you know, it's, again, complicated because they're falling on the same side of this particular issue.
They don't know what to do with them. What do you do when your intersectionality starts to fight each other? I have other video that I haven't shown here, but it's the environmentalists fighting with the rainbow people in a parade, because the parade was using gas vehicles, and the environmentalist people were coming out and attack. They all attack each other, which I say sit back and let them all attack each other, because I want the Muslims to learn that these Democrats who claim to be on your side are not on your side. The Democrats will throw the Muslims under the bus as soon as you step out of line. You stay in line or you'll get labeled. They'll call you the name, you know, all those Muslim white supremacists. These Democrats are crazy. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And of course, subscribe. It really helps get our channel's message out there. Thanks for watching. I'm Doug in Exile.